This is the video for the first section of Chapter 6. And in Chapter 6, we begin talking about the standard deviation as a ruler. We'll begin talking about how many standard deviations above or below the mean a particular value or occurrence is. Okay, and this will give us the ability to compare two things from two different populations. Okay, so you can compare apples to oranges because you can compare each to the means and the standard deviations of each. So you're using the standard deviation as a ruler to measure how extreme or how likely it is that something would happen. Okay, and the equation that we will use is this one right here. Okay, you take the value, you subtract the mean or find the difference from the mean, and divide that by the standard deviation. And I will tell you how many standard deviations above or below the mean that is, and we'll call that a z-score. Okay, a z-score. I don't know why they picked the letter z, but they did. So it's a z-score, which measures how many standard deviations above or below the mean that is. Now this equation right here is probably the most important equation that we will learn all year. Okay, in my mind, it's as important to statistics as y equals mx plus b is to algebra 1. Okay, we will use it consistently through the entire year. Okay, so make sure that is in your notes. Okay, make sure you take a look at the examples, especially the guided examples in this chapter. It's really good for you to have working knowledge of how to use these ideas, especially finding standard deviations and the ideas that will follow this idea in the rest of this chapter. Okay, here's another example of using a z-score, calculating the value minus the mean divided by standard deviation, which gives you that this z-score was 2.7 or 2.7 standard deviations above the mean. Okay, make sure you look at this example pretty clearly. It's a very useful one. Okay, the second idea that's touched on in this section is about shifting and rescaling data. Okay, make sure you read this part very carefully, in that when you shift data by adding or subtracting a constant to every value, then all the measures of position, so the min, the max, Q1, Q3, the median, the mean, every measure of position or center will be shifted by that same constant. Okay, but you've shifted everything according to that constant, and so all the measures of spread, like the range, like the IQR, like the standard deviation, will not change. Okay, for example, the IQR, both the Q1 and the Q3 both moved, and so the IQR doesn't change. The min and the max both move, and so the range doesn't change. Okay, so that's shifting data. The last idea is about rescaling data when you multiply or divide all the data values by a constant. Okay, when this happens, every measure is multiplied by that constant. Measures of position and the measures of spread. So the min, the max, Q1, Q3, the median, the mean, standard deviation, IQR, range, everything is multiplied by that constant. Make sure you're aware of that idea. So that's it for the first part of chapter 6.